So our next speaker is the author of a book called Hidden Records, looking at ancient civilizations and star maps and many other fascinating subjects. He's come from Cape Town for the weekend, so please give a warm welcome to Wayne Herschel.
What were the ancients thinking? The question obviously is why would they build giant megaliths, pyramids, and is there any connection between these ancient civilizations? Well, my research looks into something that I prefer to describe as hidden records that are not easily available. And in the last few years, I've found that they were also forbidden because my book was interfered with, and I've had in the US market, had my book removed 4 times, and I'm in the 5th time doing it now. So there's something in here that isn't quite making people in the world happy, some very important people, but you can see for yourselves what you think it might be. I'm going to put this right by my mouth. Okay. My first slide. A picture of the Earth and the stars. Now, if there was some kind of message in ancient civilizations from where we came from, wouldn't we be looking for their fingerprints? Stars, star formations, and is there anything that we can find? And of course, where do we come from? That's one of the biggest important questions to any human being is who are we? Where do we come from? The missing link is a real scientific fact. There's a huge bridge between hominid and humans. And if I found something that was unanimous with all of them, wouldn't that be possible proof? If it's a statistical figure that comes up hundreds of times. The stars you see there, the little blue stars at the top, I can use the laser here, over there, are the Pleiades, and Orion on the left, over there, are the 2 star formations that seem to be most common in history. It seems up until the time of the end of the Neanderthal, we have a very primitive hominid record on all the records of skeletons and human remains. I wouldn't call this chappy human because he's far from human. That is a recent rebuild of the Neanderthal face. So up until maybe 200,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago, this is the creature of this planet. Our planet was the planet of the apes for a very long time, until just recently, the blink of an eye, 200,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago, suddenly we're everywhere. Replaced by what? Modern humans of all races in every continent, suddenly. The dating of this we'll question in part 2 tomorrow, but I honestly believe it was an invasion. I believe we are the descendants of people that came here. They had a very advanced beginnings, but something wiped us clean off the slate that brought us back to hunters and gatherers. And I believe the flood did that, and we'll look into those details. Just to get a bit of star information, Orion's belt. Following the stars, most people know the 3 belt stars of Orion. The brightest star is Sirius. There's the 3 belt stars. You just follow the road to get to Taurus, the celestial bull. It was sacred in ancient civilizations. And of course, the Pleiades down here, and an important star. Looking at those 2 constellations, that's all you have to remember. Just those 3 are very important to point the way to something in the sky that's important. And the leg formation can be used as a pointer. It looks like a celestial leg of the bull. The Egyptians said it was the leg of the bull, following it to there. So we have 2 coordinates. Or if you measure from here, you can measure actually 33 degrees of arc measurement in the sky. Astronomers measure in arc degrees. That's 33 degrees from that piece of Orion right up to there. If you're looking closely at the stars, you'll see the star maps have got one very important monument. If you look at all of them, this is a very important part in the sky. Secondly, there's another one down here. You can just see it. That'll come up a lot in the next few slides. So there's the Pleiades, very nice constellation of 7 stars. We find that near sun-like stars, there are 2, this one here and this one here. If you run back in time, around about 17,000 years ago, and we've got a second anomaly here that comes into contention, that lands in that little target area. It's another sun-like star by a Hungarian researcher, Martin Gob-Molnar, has proposed another star. It's underneath there, HD 284 as being sun-like. It fits into that target at 35,000 years ago. The evolution gradient is actually very consistent from the end of the Neanderthal going backwards. If you look at his skull differences in hundreds of thousands of years, it's very, very slight changes. And suddenly we are here, arrive, and where we are now. This is where I think that cataclysm took place around about 10,000 years ago. And that's where we are now. That's modern humans. If you compare hominid femur bones, there's quite a huge difference. We're the one on the left. Modern humans, Cro-Magnon man, have this very porous, very frail femur. And the one on the right is the Neanderthal. Every hominid had that same size, very dense bone, and a lot thicker. And you can see the thickness of the actual bone there compared to here. So all the apes, all the hominids, every creature in the animal kingdom seems to have very well adapted structural conditions for their bodies to live on our planet. However, our porous bones suggest that we might have had a different beginnings. Comparing skulls, the Australopithecus is one of the earliest hominids. That's his skull. This is the end of the hominids as far as I'm concerned, Neanderthal. You can see a slight resemblance, even with those two being on different sides of the spectrum. And here's us, Cro-Magnon man, modern humans suddenly appearing in large amounts, large numbers all over the world 35,000 years ago. I want to compare the skull of the chimpanzee to the Australopithecus. Look at the similarity between those two. How does evolution work? How can this one here be a modern ape and have such similarities to the Australopithecus? I think it's because obviously they're related and we can see close resemblances, but the modern human looks really different. Now, the beginnings of humanity, there seem to be two prime Homo sapiens sapiens. The one on the left, not many people know about. That is a skull from the Inca period of one of the elongated skulls of the Incas. This particular skull has a 1 liter extra volume of skull. I think it's alien. I think it's more alien than us, and it's probably some other human occupation in the beginning. But one thing that really stood out weird of these is to have birth of a head that size. We found the skeletal remains of a newborn baby with the exact same size head proportion, but obviously a child. And you'd have to have pretty wide hips to give birth to a head like that, wouldn't you? Look at Akhenaten's hips. He's a male, he's very unusual features. And quite interesting, he even carries that wide hip syndrome. A second thing that points him as being really a weak species is most of the skulls have got no teeth. They had gum disease, and they seem to have just died out quite early in their power and their reign, and they were treated as gods in the beginning. But let's look at our story, modern humans. Starting in Egypt, nobody knows that Akhenaten built 1,800 offering tables out of concrete, well, not concrete, sorry, out of limestone, which I like to call concrete because it's actually the same formula, and there's a lot of theory that some of the blocks could have actually been formed. But anyway, just looking at those offering tables as a fact in history, 1,800 offering tables. He spoke of this disc called the Aten that came down, and he supplied all this offering to the god of the Aten, a disk that shines like the sun. Could it have been the proverbial disc-shaped UFO that shines like the sun? Just take that as a maybe. But that offering table with all that food, would it have just gone there to waste? 1,800 offering tables. He was one of those large head chappies right here, and Nefertiti, his wife. The Sphinx is thought to be the ultimate monument. I want to question that because I think there's another one. And what is the Sphinx looking at? He's looking at the sun rising in the east. Is it more than that? Is it possibly also that he's looking at the stars? Interesting thing about the Sphinx, it's got a completely flat back. It's like a little heliport. A helicopter could land quite easily on the back of that. And I think these are remains of what once used to be a door. Now, there's an ancient tradition I'm going to show to you from a papyrus that seems to suggest Ra's first arrival here in this world, he could have landed on the back of that Sphinx. Why would he want to land on a raised area that was surrounded by water? It was actually right next to the River Nile and surrounded by water. Why would he want to land in such almost like a safety condition? Well, if it was over 10,000 years ago, there were obviously lions and crocodiles, and that would have been a safe place to get started. This papyrus is in the Egyptian Museum. It's quite interesting that it has what I believe is the Sphinx down here. Now, why do I think that's the Sphinx? The Egyptians were very good at putting in titles with every little important anomaly or a statue. That little goodie there is the Sphinx.